Welcome back to Mac Talks Football, and it's match day 7 in the Premier League. It is the last weekend before the second international break, so everybody is gonna be on their toes. They're gonna try to make sure that they go onto the international break with a win, and they're gonna try to make sure that they don't lose out on points because of some silly mistakes. So every team is gonna be extra cautious this weekend. There are some interesting games in the weekend as well, so we are gonna make our predictions for the weekend, and at the end of the weekend we're gonna see how many of my predictions came true. You guys can play with me as well. Make your predictions in the comment section below, and at the end we'll see how many of your predictions were right. The point system is quite simple: 3 points if my prediction is completely right, or 2 points if the prediction is right but the score is not right. And now the international break is here, so we're gonna see how many points I have made for the entire 7 weeks. Of course, we're gonna calculate how many of the how good I have been doing or how bad I have been up until now. So let's go right ahead and make our predictions. The first game is Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. It's first versus 18th. Liverpool, they have been really good. They have just lost once in the season till now. 5 emphatic victories. First at the top at the moment. They won last weekend against Wolves 2-1. It was quite a good win. For them. Like, Wolves never really challenged them. If we are being very honest with ourselves, like, they were in a control majority of the game. And even though the scoreline says 2-1, the game was not that close. Then in midweek they won against Barcelona 2-0 in the Champions League. So they are on a on a high coming into this game. They are playing against a Crystal Palace side who are one of the teams who are still winless in the league. They played last weekend against Everton and they lost 2-1. I thought that was a very important game. I thought Crystal Palace might win that game, but they did not, and they are still winless. And I said because it was quite an important game, because Everton were close to them, and the team that would have won, they would have, that basically was a relegation scrap game. It was a 6-pointer, as we like to say, and Everton were able to get the win. And Crystal Palace, they were not like, to be very honest, nobody really expected Crystal Palace to be winless after 6 games. Their start has been quite disastrous, and I think there are going to be problems at Selhurst Park at the moment. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how they play tomorrow against Liverpool. And the thing is, in my opinion, their start is going to get even worse, because I just don't see them getting anything from the game against Liverpool. I think it's going to be quite an easy, convincing home win for Liverpool. They are at home, they are in a good form, and Crystal Palace, as I said, it has been a really bad start to the season. So I think it is going to be quite a convincing home win. I am going for a 3-0 Liverpool win. The next game is Arsenal versus Leicester. It's a 3rd versus a 19th. It's one of the team who is still undefeated, one of the 2 teams in Arsenal, and Southampton, one of the 3 teams who are still winless. So it is on paper, it's quite an easy game to call. Arsenal, they are, as I said, they are one of the 2 teams who are still undefeated. They won last weekend 4-2 against Leicester. It was going quite an easy game, but they themselves made it hard for them. They go ahead 2-0. Then the score becomes 2-2, and then finally Arsenal go ahead and get the extra 2 goals to get the 3 points. As I said, Arsenal like to make things hard for themselves. They were in the Champions League midweek. They played a very good game against PSG. A commanding performance. I think it was one of the best performances under Mikel Arteta, because it was in Europe, and I think all the Arsenal fans would be really happy. Now they are at home. They are playing against a struggling Southampton side there, and as I said, this is the last game before the international break, so they are going to want to make sure that they get the 3 points, so they don't get behind City or Liverpool. Southampton, on the other hand, 19th, they are still winless. 5 defeats in the first 6 games. They lost to Bournemouth last weekend 2-1. It was a close game, and I thought that was a very important game for Southampton to get something out of it, but they were not able to get anything. And I think their losing streak is gonna continue. They are going to Emirates, and I just don't see any result apart from Arsenal. I think if Arsenal play sensibly, like I thought it was going to be an easy win for Arsenal last weekend, and it's when the game started, it looked like an easy win. First half it was a 2-0, but the second half the things changed. But I don't think it is going to happen this weekend. I'm going for a 4-0 win for Arsenal. Moving on to the next game, it's Brentford versus Wolves. It's 13th versus 20th. Now Brentford, they had a really good start in a way to the season. In the first three games, they had won twice and they were looking really good. But then they lost two games on a row, and then last weekend they broke that losing streak by drawing with West Ham. I think it was a very exciting game of football against West Ham. I expected a draw, and the game ended in a draw. And I think West Ham would be, Brentford would be happy that they have stop that losing streak, and they would want to do it, go one step better this weekend. They are playing against a Wolves side who have been absolutely terrible this season. 6 games, 5 defeats, just a 1 point till now. They lost last weekend against Liverpool 2-1, lost, and they were at home that time as well. This time they are away. They are going to Brentford's stadium, and I think it is going to be a close game, but I think Brentford just have enough in their system to get over the line. And Thomas Franks knows that these are the type of games where which Brentford need to win if they want to make sure that they stay away from that relegation battle, because so many teams are so close to it at the moment, and he knows if these are the type of games they need to win to make sure they get away from it, and they can, if they really want to finish in that top 10, which I think it's going to be really hard this season. That if they really want to get it done, they need to win these type of games, and I think they are going to win it. I think it might end up being quite close, but I think Brentford being at home, I get over the line. I'm going for a 2-1 home win for Brentford. The next game is Manchester City versus Fulham. It's a second versus a sixth. Manchester City, they are the second team apart from Arsenal, who are still undefeated in the league. They had a perfect start, first 4 games and 4 consecutive wins. Then they drew against Arsenal, and then they drew last weekend against Newcastle. They have lost Rodri as well. So there is that going on in the City fans' heads and City players' head. They know they have lost as an important member, and as I said, they have lost. They have drawn 2 consecutive games, so 4 points lost. So that is going to be playing in their head as well. They won in the midweek in the Champions League 4-0 win. So that it was very important for them to get that win. They are going to play at their home as well, so they would fancy themselves to get a win. They are playing against a Fulham side who have had a really good start to the season. They are undefeated in their last 5 games. The only game that they lost was on opening day against Manchester United, and I said that after that game as well, that they were really unlucky to lose that game. They did not deserve to lose that game in my opinion, because they played really well, and they have shot after that game the consecutively 5 games. They are undefeated. They are really looking good. They're gonna go away at Etihad, and I think it will be a very tight game. I won't be surprised if Manchester City drop another 2 points, if I'm being very honest with you, because Fulham, they are doing a really good. The way they are playing, I think it could surprise Manchester City. Of course, they are going to make sure that they try to defend as much as possible, but when they try to hit on the counter, now they have those players that can go ahead and hurt them. Winners as a striker, Emil Smith-Rowe as the provider. Like they have a really good Iwobi on one side, Reece Nelson on the other. Like it is a very good score that they have, and they can surprise Manchester City. But I still think City, after drawing those last 2 games, they know how important it is for them to get something out of this game. And again, they are going to go to the international break, so they would want to finish it, go on an international break with a high. I think it will be quite a close game, but I think City might edge it. I'm going for a 3-1 win for Manchester City. The next game is West Ham versus Ipswich. It is 14th versus 15th. West Ham have not really had a good season, especially the start of the season that anybody expected. Like I thought that they were going to have a stellar season. I predicted them to finish at 6th, but their performances have been really disappointing. You could say that the players that they have brought in have not really performed to the expectations. They spent a good amount of money, and Lopetegui is going to be under a lot of pressure. They drew last weekend against Brentford as well. There have been games where West Ham were really favorites to win the game, but they were not able to get the job done. And like last week was one of those games, and this weekend they are again they are expected to win against an Ipswich side who are just promoted to the Premier League. And West Ham, if they really want to go ahead and get into those top 10 places and maybe try to get to those European places, which was the expectations and which almost everybody expected Manchester City to West Ham United to be close to that Conference League or Europa League places. They need to win games like these. But the performances that West Ham have shown till now, I'm not that confident. They are playing against an Ipswich side who lost their first two games, but since then it has been four consistent consecutive draws. Their performances have sort of gotten better, and it feels like they might be the one team out of the out of the promoted team that might be safe. There were, like, when I made my prediction, I basically flipped a coin between them and Southampton, and I chose Southampton, but Southampton are looking really dreadful, and Ipswich, even though they are not getting the wins, they are playing much better than other two promoted teams, and I think it is going to be another close game. This game really could go anywhere because Ipswich, they love to attack. They like playing attacking football. West Ham themselves, both of them are like to play attacking football, and I think there are going to be goals in this game. I think this is the game that West Ham should win, and if prior to the season you would have given me this picture, I would have easily said West Ham win the game, but because of how they have performed till now and how Ipswich have performed till now, I don't see anybody getting all 3 points. I think this is going to be a draw, but it is going to be a high scoring draw. I'm going for a 2-2 draw between West Ham and Ipswich. The next game is Leicester City versus Bournemouth. It's 17th versus 11th. Leicester are one of those 4 teams who are still winless in the Premier League. They played Arsenal last weekend, and it felt like it was going to be quite an easy win for Arsenal, but Leicester made a comeback, but in the end they were not really able to hold on to their lead and lost that game 4-2. But their performance wise, I think Leicester would be really happy that they made Arsenal suffer. They went toe to toe with them for majority of for that second half. The first half they were not in the game, I'll be very honest, but that second half I think was the type of performance that Leicester should really aim for, and try to make sure that they play like that every weekend. They are playing against a Bournemouth side who won last weekend against Southampton. It was important for Bournemouth to win because they don't want to get dragged into this relegation battle, and they got the perfect chance last weekend to play against a team who is really struggling and get the win, and they were able to do that. And that is why now there is a sort of 5-6 points difference between them and the other teams at the bottom, and they again have a chance to get even further ahead than the teams at the bottom. They are playing against the Leicester side who are really struggling, but as I said, they could come out with a great performance in a half, and that could change the complexion of the game. I think it is going to be quite a tight game again, but I don't think anybody is going to come out with a win. I'm going for a 1-1 draw between Leicester City and Bournemouth. The next game is Everton versus Newcastle. It is 16th versus 7th. Now Everton, it was a big win for them last weekend. It was their first win of the season. It brought them out of that relegation zone, and I think it was coming along the way that they had playing for the last couple of weeks prior to last weekend. You felt like Everton were very close to get that win, and they finally got over the line last weekend against Crystal Palace. As I said, a big win for them, and they would want to make try that they would want that to continue this weekend as well, so that they can even get a bit far more ahead than the other teams up behind them, because at the moment it's looking like a complete mess. There are like about 6-7 teams who are in that position from 14th to 20th, like just a couple of points separating those teams. So Everton would want to get away from them to make sure there is a breathing space between them and the other teams. They are playing against a Newcastle side who had a great result last weekend against Manchester City, drawing a 1-1. I think it was a great performance from Eddie Howe's team. They were really put Manchester City under the pump, under the pressure, and at one moment it felt like they might go ahead and even win that game. So like a great performance. They are gonna come at Goodison Park this weekend, and I think they are really gonna fancy themselves to get something out of this game because of Everton's position. Even though Everton won last weekend, but I think if you are gonna compare the two sides, I think Newcastle have a really better squad, and I think they're gonna go ahead and get the job done. I think it will be a very tough game because Everton are going to be at home. The fans are going to be really up for it, and in some way I think a lot of Evertonian thinks that they should be where Newcastle are at the moment. Like they had a major investment before Newcastle did, but they were not able to sustain it and work get something out of it. So there is a little bit of bitterness for some Everton fans regarding Newcastle. So that's gonna, I think, come into play in that game as well. But I think in the end Newcastle are just gonna edge it. I'm going for a 2-1 win for the away side. The next game is Aston Villa versus Manchester United. It's 5th versus 14th. Now Aston Villa, they would be really disappointed after last weekend's result. Like they have been in a they were in a really good form coming into that game. They had won 3 in a row, and they were playing against Ipswich Town. So I really thought that they were gonna go ahead and get the job done and become a 4 get 4 wins in a row. They were in the top 4 prior to that game. This is the first weekend where they have dropped out of the top 4. So that they would be a bit disappointed regarding last weekend's result. But during the midweek, they defeated Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I mean, what a win that was! It was a big victory for them. When I made the Champions League predictions, I said that Aston Villa could really go ahead and win that game. I almost made that prediction, but in the end I stopped and I went up for a draw because I knew like Aston Villa have been really great under Unai Emery, and Bayern Munich have not been that impressive. If you are following the Bundesliga, you would know that Bayern Munich are some it's not the same Bayern Munich as before, and company has not really settled in, and Emery was easily gonna get the number on him, and he did it. Like it was a great performance. So their confidence is gonna be sky high, and they're going to make sure that they go into international break with a win, and they know they would want to get back into that top 4 place. They are playing against a Manchester United side who are all over the place. They lost last weekend to Spurs at 3-0. Is such a bad performance, a convincing win for Spurs. As much as I hate to say it as an Arsenal fan, like they were so good in that game, and Manchester United were atrocious. We come into the midweek in the Europa League, they go 2-0 ahead against Porto, and then they throw away the lead, and somehow some way Harry Maguire becomes and saves them from an embarrassing defeat against Porto in Europa League. So nothing is really working for Ten Hag. He's under so much pressure, and I think it is gonna get worse than it. They are 14 in the league. They've played they played 2, and both of them have been 2 draws in the Europa League. So everything is looking really bad for Ten Hag at the moment. I think it is gonna get worse for him, because I just don't see Manchester United getting anything out of this game. I think Aston Villa are gonna get the win quite easily, and I think it is going to be another a bad day at the office for Man United and Ten Hag. I'm going for a 2-0 win for the home side. The next game is Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. It's 4th versus 10th. Chelsea have had a really good start to the season. Nobody really expected that to happen. There were concerns regarding Maresca, but I kept on saying that Maresca is the guy that Chelsea should really get behind him. There are going to be games where Chelsea there are going to be weeks where Chelsea just explode, and it has already happened in the league this season. But I think they are in a sort of a right path. 5 games undefeated, 4 wins out of those 5, 3 in a row currently. They won last weekend against Brighton 4-2. I thought that game was gonna give us goal, and it ended up being like that. The thing is, with Maresca, you are gonna see games where Chelsea are gonna score, but they are gonna concede as well. They are gonna be high scoring games. Then they go they win in the midweek. They win in the Conference League as well. So they are looking really good at the moment. They are playing against a Nottingham Forest side who were undefeated in the Premier League alongside Manchester City and Arsenal up until last weekend when Fulham ended their unbeaten streak. That was their first defeat of the season. They are 10th at the moment, but they have played really good. They have exceeded expectations till now, because a lot of us thought that they were going to be at the bottom, fighting for relegation and struggling to get the points. But the start of the season has been good. They lost last weekend, and I think unfortunately for them, they are going to get another defeat in a row, second defeat in a row. They are gonna go to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea with such a good form and playing such good football. I think it is gonna be 4 wins in a row for Maresca side, and I think unfortunately for Forest, they are gonna get a thumping in this game. I'm going for a 5-1 win for Chelsea. And the last game of this weekend in the Premier League, it's Brighton versus Tottenham. It's ninth versus 8th. Brighton, they were undefeated in the league up until last weekend, and they were playing really good. They lost to Chelsea. That was their first defeat of the season, and they would want to get back. Husler's start to the league was quite interesting. Then they drew a bit, so they have sort of dropped down, but the way they are playing, I think they can change the momentum just like that, and go on a great winning run at the and that's gonna surprise a lot of the people. They are playing against the Spurs side who are it at the moment. Their start again, like it is Spurs, I really don't know what to say. They are quite inconsistent. They got a couple of defeats, couple of draws, then they've got the wins as well. Last weekend their performance was extraordinary. Manchester United were utter shit, but Spurs, to their credit, they played a really good football. They won 3-1, so they are going to be, their confidence is going to be really good coming into this game. I think both of these teams are going to fancy themselves to get the 3 points out of this game, and I think we could expect quite a good game of football, but I just don't see any of them getting 3 points. I think it is going to be a draw. It is going to be an exciting high scoring draw, but nonetheless a draw. I'm going for a 2-all draw between Brighton and Tottenham. And with that, my predictions for match day 7 in the Premier League are complete. We're going to see how many of them I get them right at the end of the weekend. You guys can make your predictions in the comment section below as well, and play with me and see how many of your predictions are right as well. So yeah, I like the video, share it as well, click on the notification bell, and of course subscribe to the channel. We are trying to get to 400 subscribers before the month of October ends. It's still early days in the month, so we are trying to make sure that we can we are able to achieve our target and get to 400 subscribers. It is going to be the international break after after this weekend, so a lot of different kind of content is gonna come during the international break as well. We are going to focus on the international football as well, because there are World Cup qualifiers being played all around the world, especially like Asian World Cup qualifiers, the country that I live in. So they are qualifying games are going to be played, so there might be a couple of match day vlogs coming there in the videos on the channel as well. So as I said, different type of content, a bit of tier list and all of that that you are not able to see during the a regular season. So please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, bye bye.